course. I am Dr. Vidya Patil and I will be guiding and assisting you during this course. In the last video, we had discussed about Sri Rabindranath Tagore, the writer of the short story *Kabuliwala*. We had tried to understand his personality and his contributions. We also came to know many more aspects about the background of this short story. So, we have learned about the title, the setting, the important characters, and the main theme of the story. As I have told you earlier, so this story revolves around the friendship of the Kabuliwala and a small 5-year-old girl named Minnie. The girl's father, he is the narrator of the story. The main theme of this story is about filial love or fatherly love. That is the love of father for his children. So students, let us now try to understand this story. So students, let us now begin with the story, the Kabuliwala. As I have told you just now, the story is written by Sri Rabindranath Tagore and it revolves around the friendship of the Kabuliwala and a young girl called Minnie. Kabuliwala's real name is Abdur Rahman. He comes from Kabul in Afghanistan and he works as a peddler. He sells his wares and fruits, especially dry fruits, in the streets of Calcutta. He goes to Kabul once a year to go and meet his wife and daughter. His daughter's name is Parvati. Now, while selling goods, one day he reaches the house of the narrator. Minnie, the 5-year-old daughter of the narrator, was playing near her house and seeing him, she calls out, "O Kabuliwala, O Kabuliwala." When Kabuliwala visited her house, she suddenly got afraid. Seeing his soiled clothes and his tall turban and a man with such tall height, she suddenly felt afraid and she thought he looked gigantic. She immediately went inside and ran away. The narrator noticed that Minnie was very afraid of the Kabuliwala. Seeing that Minnie was afraid of Kabuliwala, the narrator decided that he should try to remove this fear from her mind. So one day, he himself called the Kabuliwala and introduced him to Minnie. The Kabuliwala gifted her with some raisins and nuts. Minnie became very happy and soon she began to talk to him. After that, the Kabuliwala started visiting their house regularly. He used to get something or the other for her to eat. Many days after that, Minnie used to call him out whenever she saw him in the streets and say, "O Kabuliwala, O Kabuliwala." And as soon as Kabuliwala used to come near their house, she used to run and hide behind her mother. This had become a game between them. However, soon Minnie and Kabuliwala overcame all these differences and they became close friends. Kabuliwala and Minnie were very comfortable with each other. They used to crack jokes, laugh, and enjoy. They had a lot of fun and were very happy with each other. The narrator was very pleased to see that Minnie had found a friend in this Kabuliwala. However, Minnie's mother became very anxious. She was very disappointed whenever she watched Minnie playing and having fun with the Kabuliwala. She used to feel that the Kabuliwala could be a child lifter and that maybe one day he would kidnap Minnie and take her away. So this became a regular practice. The Kabuliwala used to come and both he and Minnie used to spend time with each other. He used to give her something to eat. They used to make fun and enjoy. One day, the writer, that is Minnie's father, noticed that She was sitting alone and was very sad. When he asked her as to why she was so sad, she answered that today Kabuliwala hadn't arrived. She was very disappointed and angry. She even refused to eat her food on that day. This showed how close she had come and how she had got herself very attached to the Kabuliwala. Kabuliwala used to sell seasonal goods. So he used to get different kinds of items which he used to sell among in the streets of Calcutta. One day he had sold a Rampuri shawl to one of the customers on credit. In spite of repeatedly asking for the money, the customer had not been paying the money back to him. Finally, the customer flatly denied having purchased a shawl from him. This angered the Kabuliwala, and in anger he stabbed the customer. Soon, two policemen came and arrested him. There was blood all over him, and finally he was sentenced to 8 years in jail. The writer or the narrator, that is Minnie's father, found out all this information and explained to Minnie that this was the reason as to why the Kabuliwala was not coming home. Somewhere in his mind, he felt that maybe his wife was right and he had done a wrong thing by trying to develop or promote the friendship between the Kabuliwala and his daughter. He felt that his daughter had been saved from this person. Completing his 8 years of imprisonment, the Kabuliwala was freed from the jail. Immediately, he came to meet Minnie to the narrator's house. But coincidentally, that was the day of Minnie's wedding. The writer felt that it wouldn't be right for him to allow Minnie to meet the Kabuliwala and told him that he would not be able to meet her today as she was busy with the marriage preparations. The Kabuliwala felt very sad and disappointed, but before going, he gave some fruits and nuts which he had brought for Minnie. He also removed a small piece of paper from his pocket and showed it to the narrator. That paper contained or consisted of an handprint of his own young daughter whom he had left behind in Kabul. The writer's eyes filled with tears. He felt very sad and realized that Kabuliwala used to miss his own daughter, and that was the reason why he used to come and spend time with Minnie. The writer, for the first time, treated Kabuliwala as a human being and felt an emotional bond with him. He now realized that though he lived in a well-built house and the Kabuliwala used to wander on the streets, both were equal on one level because both were fathers and both loved their daughters. With this realization, he suddenly came to an understanding as to why Kabuliwala felt so attached with Minnie. The narrator immediately asked for Minnie to come. He again introduced Minnie to the Kabuliwala, but Minnie was not at all able to recognize him. She was in her wedding dress, and the Kabuliwala was surprised to see her like this. He was still expecting to see a small 5-year-old girl to come and meet him. As soon as he saw her and her refusal to recognize him, he became very sad and realized that his own daughter in Kabul will also have grown up and maybe she will also not be able to recognize him. He was very much upset as a result of this. Seeing this, the writer became very sentimental and he immediately decided that he will cancel all the fancy lights and the music band which he had ordered for his daughter's wedding. And instead, he gave a 100 rupee note to Kabuliwala and told him that Please use this money to go back home and meet your daughter. So we find that both the narrator, that is Minnie's father, and Kabuliwala are able to relate and understand each other as fathers, and the love for their daughters brings them closer to each other. Rabindranath Tagore, through this story, tries to show that no matter what your economic status may be, every father loves and is ready to make any sacrifice for their child. Here we find that the writer who has always been living with his daughter has to suddenly part with her, whereas on the other hand, Kabuliwala, who has always been living away from his daughter, finally at the end finds a means to go back to her and spend the rest of his life with her. So students, I hope you like this story. So students, wasn't this a very emotional story? Well, I'm sure all of you must have liked it. This story reflects the father's love and sacrifice which they make for their children. I'm sure that after reading this story, you will be able to understand your fathers better, and it will help to develop a better relationship with your parents. I hope you liked this video.